During 1837 and 1843, the United States was in the midst of a nationwide economic crisis. Andrew Jackson's monetary policy caused this depression, which later became known as the Panic of 1837. During the westward expansion of the United States, states had accumulated massive debts. The money that was used to build roads, canals, and turnpikes was borrowed, spent, but then never repaid. Land payments contributed greatly to the debt. States were spending money at an unsustainable rate, and the collective debt was spiraling out of control. In order to halt spending and hopefully decrease the rate at which the debt was being accumulated, Andrew Jackson, the president at the time, ordered that land payments were to be paid only in specie. This act was called the Specie Circular. Specie is a payment in form of physical gold or silver, not paper notes. Unfortunately for Jackson, the Specie Circular backfired horribly. Prior to the Specie Circular being passed, Andrew Jackson had gotten rid of the National Bank by moving all funds from the National Bank into state banks. Andrew Jackson despised the National Bank. He once said, "I have always been afraid of banks." This quote, although simple, carries much weight. As a result of the closing of the National Bank, federal banknotes had lost all their value, and now only state notes remained. Due to the recent halt in banking, people began to lose faith in state banks as well. The economy was taking a turn for the worst. People all across the country began removing their specie reserves from banks. All faith was lost in the United States banking system. During May 8th and 9th, nearly $1 million in gold and silver were withdrawn. On May 10th, New York's banks suspended all outgoing specie payments. One day later, all the nation's banks followed in New York's footsteps. Little to no money was flowing through the country's banks. This was a problem because in order for an economy to flourish, money needs to be traded and transactions need to take place. Banks need to thrive in order for the economy to thrive. As Martin Van Buren put it, banks properly established and conducted are highly useful to the business of the country and will doubtlessly continue to exist in states. The exact opposite of this happened. Almost everyone was hoarding specie and refusing to spend it. It wasn't just the banks keeping the money, but the states, citizens, and federal government had all begun to stockpile specie. No one had any trust in the monetary system. The economy came to a standstill. The federal mint was affected immensely by the halt in spending. They no longer had enough gold and silver to melt down and make coins. This lack of U.S. coins, along with the lack of trust in paper notes, caused people to rely on foreign coins for trade. This led to many problems. The damage that Jackson caused to the country's banks had lived on after his presidency. Martin Van Buren was the president after Jackson. Once elected into office, Van Buren and his administration were severely lacking in funds. In order to acquire the much-needed money, Van Buren began to borrow money. The national debt has started up once again, and has been with us ever since. All the work Jackson had done to remove the national debt had been for nothing. His hatred of the bank and the longing for its destruction will never be put at ease. He said to Martin Van Buren, "The bank, Mr. Van Buren, is trying to kill me, but I will kill it." In 1842, the economy slowly recovered from the grueling 5-year-long depression. Banks began to start back up, and the economy began to go back to normal. The effects of the Depression, however, had left a significant impact on the nation's banks. Of the 850 banks that made up the U.S. banking system, nearly 60%, or about 507 of them, had closed down altogether, and another 62 banks were so severely crippled by the event that they never fully recovered. Jackson's Specie Circular is to blame for the Panic of 1837. It was his monetary policy that plunged the United States into a depression and crippled the nation's economy.